Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2, Unit 3.3 Notes, Day 2. Today we're going to be talking about solving absolute value inequalities. Our learning target today is to be able to solve and graph absolute value inequalities and write their solution in interval notation. So, directions say to solve and graph each absolute value inequality and to write solution sets in interval notation. So, the key thing to remember from yesterday is when we have less than or equal to, those turn into and. Remember, it's less than, we add the and to it, okay? If it's greater than or equal to, when it's all done, those would change to an or. Greater than. Okay, but we can't just do that right away. We can't just be like, oh look, it's less than, so we're going to change it to an and. No. Absolute value is not by itself. So first we have to get the absolute value by itself. Then we can figure out if it's less than or greater than and to solve it from there. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So when we're doing this, remember, we have to follow the rules of SADMAP. Okay? So I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides, and I have -9 times the absolute value of -2x minus 7 is less than or equal to -45. And once again, I can't be like, oh, it equals a negative, no solution. No. Okay? Remember, get the absolute value by itself first. Now, the -9 is multiplying. The inverse of multiplying is dividing, so I have to divide both sides by -9, and then we get the absolute value of -2x minus 7. -45 divided by -9 is a +5, and then we need to remember to flip. So this changes to greater than or equal to, which means this is or. Okay? So when we have an or, we need to break it down into our 2. All right? So we have -2x minus 7, -2x minus 7. One is the same, it's greater than or equal to 5. But the other one, we need to switch it because it's less than or equal to -5. Okay? And there's our break. Remember that both of these have to be in opposite directions. Okay? And now we solve them. So we're going to draw our line down the middle, and we add 7 to both sides. We get -2x is less than or equal to -5 plus 7 is 2. And then I divide by -2. When I divide by a negative, I have to flip the sign, and then we get -1. Okay? Now the nice thing is I already did all the steps, so theoretically, I'm just kind of writing down the steps and I should be doing the same thing. Okay? Because it's the same inequality, just different signs. 5 plus 12, or sorry, 5 plus 7 is 12, and then divide by -2, I get -6, and once again, remember, when you divide by a negative, you have to flip. Now, those are not written in the correct order. So as I write these in the correct order, here we go. We have x is less than or equal to -6, or x is greater than or equal to -1. Now we're going to graph it. Okay? So at -6, we are closed and we shade everything to the left. And at -1, we are closed, and I'm shading everything to the right. Okay, and now we have to write this in interval notation. So our graph starts at -infinity, and it stops at -6. It's closed here. Everywhere else we use parentheses. This is my break, so there's a union, and then I'm closed at -1, and it keeps going to positive infinity. Okay, so that's what I'm going to write down here in interval notation. And there we go. All right, that just looks weird down here. Let's erase these. Okay. Example number 2. Remember, we need to get the inequality by itself, so we need to follow SADMEP. Okay, reverse order of operations. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Then we have 3 times the absolute value of -4w, or -4 minus 4w is greater than 96. Okay, that's multiplication. The inverse of multiplication is division. And then we have the absolute value of -4 minus 4w is greater than 32. Okay, so finally we got that absolute value by itself. It's greater. Okay, so greater. That means we're going to have 2, and then we have the or in between. So -4 minus 4w, -4 minus 4w. The less than -32, and then one that stays the same. Okay. Add 4 to both sides. We get -4w is less than -28. And then I need to divide by -4. When I divide by negative, I have to flip the sign. So we get w is greater than -28 divided by -4 is a +7. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can do the rest of number 2 on your own. Good luck. Okay, so you should have been doing the exact same steps. Add 4 to both sides, divide by -4. When you divide by negative, you have to flip the sign. So I've got w is less than -9, or w is greater than 7. So then I can come down here and I can start to graph. And if you notice, we're counting by 2's. Okay, so I got 0, -2, -4, -6, -8. Well, there's -9 right there. I'm going to be open, and I'm going to shade to the left. I'm going to be open at 7, and I'm going to shade to the right. Okay? So remember, our graph starts at -infinity, and then it goes to -9. It's open there. There's a break, and then we go to 7 to positive infinity. Okay? So when I'm writing that down, I've got parentheses, -8, comma, -9, parentheses, and then union with 7 to positive infinity. Okay. Number 3. Why don't you guys pause the video to see if you can do all the solving part on your own, and then we'll break it up together. Good luck. Okay, so guys, remember we're following SADMAP. So we subtracted 11 to get negative 28. We divided by negative 2. When you divide by negative, you have to flip the sign. And now we have the absolute value all by itself. And this is the symbol less than. So we're going to have an and. Our 6w minus 10 goes in the middle, less than or equal to 14, and then we use the same symbol and we make it a negative 14. Okay? And now, once again, we solve. My goal is to get the variable, the y, by itself. So I have to add 10 to all three sides. Negative 14 plus 10 is negative 4, which is less than or equal to 6y, less than or equal to 24. And I'm going to divide everything by 6. Negative 4 divided by negative 6 is a negative 2/3, less than or equal to y, less than or equal to 4. Okay? So this is what I'm going to be graphing. Now, if you don't know what negative 2.3 is, do it in your calculator because that is about negative 0.66 repeating, okay? Or 0.67. So you need to know where that is on a graph. So it's almost to 1. It's not quite at 1, okay? And we're closed, and then we're at 4. And then when the y, when the variable is in between, or when this is in the middle, we shade the middle. Okay? So our graph starts at negative 2/3 and it's closed, and then it ends at 4. So negative 2/3, comma, 4. Let's make that look like a nice 4. That's a little better. Okay. So remember, we need to get the absolute value by itself before we can determine what it is. Okay? So we follow SADMAP. Subtract 1 to both sides. 2 times the absolute value of negative 5 minus 4n is less than 70. That's multiplication, so we need to divide by 2 to get the absolute value by itself. So now we have the absolute value of negative 5 minus 4n is less than 35. So now that the absolute value is all by itself, it's less than, now I know how to set this up. Okay? I write what's inside the absolute value, and then I just keep that sign, and then we have a negative 35 and a positive 35. Now, we should be pretty good at solving these by now, but I'll do this one with you. Okay? We want to add 5 to all three sides because I want to get the variable by itself. Negative 35 plus 5 is negative 30, is less than negative 4n is less than 40. Don't be adding things. Don't be like, oh, it's like this now. No. Don't change your signs. Now, to get the n by itself, I have to divide by negative 4. And when I divide by a negative, I have to flip. And just make sure you are flipping all of these signs. The variable is by itself. 40 divided by negative 4 is negative 10. That's the easy one. The other side, we have negative 30 divided by negative 4. Okay, 7.5 is going to help me in a second. I want that as a fraction, so it's 15 over 2. Now, if you notice, these are not in the correct order. So I need to rewrite. I have negative 10, n, and 15 over 2. Between the n and the negative 10, the inequality is pointing at the negative 10. Between the 15 over 2 and the n, the inequality is pointing at the n. So this is what I'm going to graph. Remember, we said that 15 over 2 was 7.5. So at negative 10, I'm open. At 7.5, so here's 7. So 7.5, I'm open. And then we shade everything in the middle. Okay, and I'm just going to write that that's 15 over 2. Interval notation, we are open at negative 10, and we are open at 15 over 2. Okay? All right, on to the back. So on the back, we'll do 2 more together, and then 1 and 2 on the bottom, you guys are going to try on your own. Okay? So just remember, get the absolute value by itself before we do anything else. So I need to add 7 to both sides. I have negative 2/3 absolute value of negative 6 minus x is less than negative 13 plus 7 is 6. Absolute value is not by itself yet, so to get rid of the negative 2 over 3, I need to multiply by the reciprocal. The first thing I'm doing, I'm multiplying by the reciprocal, so I want to make sure that I flip the inequality symbol. Absolute value is by itself now, and now I have, sorry, that should be negative. Negative 6 times negative 3 is positive 18, and then 18 divided by 2, we get a 9. So that's the greater symbol. Okay, so we have negative 6 minus x is less than negative 9, or negative 6 minus x is greater than 9. Now, as we're getting used to doing these, the nice thing is, if I'm adding 6 on the first one, I have to add 6 on the second one. And you can kind of do these problems, both of them at the same time. You just got to double check your math. Because negative 9 plus 6, well, that's a negative 3. But on the right side, I'm doing 9 plus 6, and that is 15. Now the x is not by itself because I have to divide by negative 1. Okay, and yes, those are going to cancel, but when you divide by negative, you have to, oh geez, that just looks weird. Flip the sign. Oh, sorry, should be going the opposite way. So we get x is greater than 3 and x is less than negative 15. So as I'm getting ready to graph this, I'm going to write this in order. X is less than or equal to negative 15, or x is greater than 3. And now I can come down here and graph. So let's see. I'm counting by 2's. So negative 12, negative 14, this is where negative 15 is going to be. I'm going to be open, and I'm going to shade to the left. at, let's see, this is 2, so that means this is going to be 3. I'm open and I shade to the right. And you guys should be pretty quick at saying, okay, we start at negative infinity, it goes to negative 15, union with positive 3 to positive infinity. Okay, if we're still getting those wrong, come in for help. Okay. Add the 8 to both sides. We get 2 over 7 times the absolute value of 7 plus 6y is less than or equal to 2. And then multiply by the reciprocal. You should be able to do that in your head. I don't flip anything. 2 times 7 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. Okay, and that is less than. So we're going to do and. Because the absolute value is by itself. I know that I can just write 7 plus 6y less than or equal to 7. I'm using the same symbol and putting a negative 7. And then we go through and solve. Okay? I have to subtract 7 to all 3 sides. Negative 7 minus 7 is negative 14. Less than or equal to 6y, less than or equal to 0. Divide by 6. Negative 14 divided by 6, you can reduce that to negative 7 over 3, less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 0. Okay? And so as you're trying to figure out where negative 7 over 3 is, because it was negative 14 divided by 6, it tells you right there, like, oh, okay, this is negative 2.3. And then back in your calculator, now you can change it to the fraction of negative 7 over 3. Okay? All right, so there's negative 2. I need to be at negative 2.3, which is going to be right around there. I like to write down exactly where I'm at. And then at y, or 0, I'm sorry, we're closed at both. Shade it in. And then we have negative 7 over 3 and 0. Okay, try these on your own. Pause the video. Do them both. Good luck. You can do it. Okay, there's a little help if you're having trouble. I'm going to pause it again. Okay, and there is my work for the rest of them, number 1 and 2. Now, if you need help on that, you didn't get them right, please come see Miss Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. That's our job. That's why we get paid the big bucks. Now, your homework is 3.3 practice B. Remember to show every step. It's going to be a mixture of everything we've done. Okay? So if you need help, come find us. Otherwise, this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra 2 Unit 3.3 Notes, Day 2. Thanks for watching.